Welcome to Podcasts with the Sheriff. It is a platform of talking about protecting Pulaski County. And let's welcome the man himself, Sheriff Eric Higgins. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Well, let's get into it. I really want to just kind of ask you some questions and just get your heart and empower us with information concerning the Pulaski County Sheriff's Department, your assignment as a sheriff to serve our community. Talk to me a little bit about, let's just do boots on the ground. When you first came into office, you ran back in 2018 and became the sheriff. Share with us what was the vision when you came in? Was there what caused you to want to run?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I spent 30 years in Little Rock Police Department and been assistant chief for a little over 10 years. And after retiring, I got to do some volunteer work with reentry programs and with colleges, and just I'm still trying to stay connected with the community. And then when I decided, it was approached and started thinking about running for Pulaski County Sheriff, really got to thinking about, what I know about law enforcement, that we have to be focused on the community. We have to connect with the community. And our approach on safety can't just be arrest. And so I looked at that, and I looked at the detention center. I knew about reentry, working with reentry programs, and I recognized that there's so many people. You're going to come through a county jail before you go to a detention facility, a state detention facility. So you have an opportunity to do something there. And so I decided I wanted to bring these things to the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office. And what I put out, I said I wanted to bring CSI to Pulaski County. And by that I meant community-focused, safety-driven, integrity-based. And I said community focus because, in law enforcement, we're a part of the community and we're empowered by the community. So we have to be focused on the community that we're here serving. We're not an occupying force. We're here serving the community. Safety-driven, not arrest-driven. Yes, we will make arrests. That's part of what we do. But if all we're focusing on is the arrest, we make arrests because we have probable cause to make an arrest. That means an offense, a crime has occurred. But if we're focused on a safety-driven, then we're looking at the issues that lead to crime, that lead to an unsafe environment. And so we have to look at those things. How can we use our resources? How can we use other resources in the community to come together and create a safer environment so that we prevent crime? That's why we're out there. Law enforcement's out there. We're not like a fire department. We're in a firehouse. We're out there patrolling to prevent crime. That's what we're supposed to. That's creating a safe community. Is prevention. And so we have to look at how we can partner and bring the community and the community resources together to prevent crime. And then integrity-based. We have to do what's right in what we do. And that's what the public expect from us. They expect law enforcement, they don't expect us to be perfect, but they do expect us to be held accountable and hold each other accountable in the way we serve the community. And so I wanted to bring my experience, my over 30 years experience in law enforcement, my experience working with reentry programs, bring those together to have a holistic approach in how we create a safer community.
So CSI sounds kind of investigative, but the acronyms actually represent, number one is community. Is the community is listed first? Is that intentional?
Yes, because we can't do this job without the community. If you look back and look at Sir Robert Peel's principles on policing, and I can't remember exact year, I think it's 1838, something like that. He's considered the grandfather of community policing. One of the things he talks about in his principles is the level of force that a police agency has to use on the community is directly related to the relationship and the trust that the community has on with the law enforcement agency. When there's more trust, there's more relationships, then there's less necessary use of force. He also talks about how you evaluate a police agency. It's not by the number of arrests you make, and it's not by, we write tickets now. It's not the number of tickets you write. It's the absence of crime. And so that's what we're going for. The safer community is fewer crimes in our community. And so, and we can't do it without the community.
Community, safety, and then the integrity piece. In order for you to actually be able to effectively focus on those areas, you ran back in 2018. Kind of walk us through the steps of when you first got there. It's like you ran for office, you were elected sheriff, and now day one you walk in. What was that like? What's the first thing you do when you first got there?
Well, the first thing we did was set up a meeting with the command, the staff there at the sheriff's office, with all the lieutenants, the captains, the majors, civilian supervisors that are over certain areas like our IT department, and we all came into a room, and I had each one take a turn to step up, tell me a little bit about themselves, tell me what they were doing, what the department they were over, what are the things they're working on, the positive things, and what they saw as some limitations that they may have had, some things that they'd like to see, some changes they'd like to see. And so we went through that process. It took several hours to have everyone get up and just share their thoughts on their department, what they were doing, and the organization. And so we took that information and then started looking at and start prioritizing the needs in the organization, because there were a lot of needs in the organizations. Some we were able to fix, I say, relatively quickly. For example, finding out that deputies in our detention center that were responsible for transports, that they were issued bullet-resistant vests, and no one could give me a reason why they weren't issued the vests, and so we were able to address those issues. So we listened to the concerns. We also went back and looked at 3 years of prior budget, looked at the actual budget, looked at the actual, the initial budget at the beginning of the year and the actual spending at the end of the year, and seeing what monies, where were we, or were we in the negative? Did we have money left over? And then comparing that to the needs in the organization to try to have a feel on some of the monetary needs the organization had. Did we have room in the budget? Because I didn't have the opportunity to create the 2019 budget that when I took office, and so I wanted to have a good feel of our spending history. The budget, and from looking at the budget, had not really changed that much on the amount of money we were receiving, and I was able to look and see what was left over for the past 3 years, and then start projecting out how we can adjust and make some changes. And one of those was absolutely purchasing the vests. We had the ability, we could project out that we wouldn't have a negative impact on the organization financially.
One of the things that you also done was you talked about, you were kind of sharing, I believe in one of your press release, you were able to not only get bulletproof vests, but you also did body cams. Was that something that they did? Now, did they have some body cams before, or was this totally new?
One of the shocking things for me for a law enforcement agency in 2019 was that they did not have in-car cameras. And through our conversations, I knew coming in they didn't have in-car cameras and they didn't have body cameras. So I knew that was something we needed to address. But they also didn't have GPS in the cars, which really concerned me, because if a deputy's out there and something happens, they have an accident or whatever, we don't know where they're at. And the last time they called us, they may have given us a location, but are they still in that location? And so that was a safety concern for me, for our deputies, that we could not track them. And so we started looking at what equipment was out there. We looked for grants, and we were able to get applied and received the $440,000 grant. It only paid for the body cameras. There was no federal monies available for the in-car cameras and the equipment to go along with that. And so we as a staff, we sat down and we looked, we knew the needs, and we identified whether or not we could afford to do this. And so we adjusted our budget to ensure that we can acquire in-car cameras, which would include the GPS, and the grant would pay for the body cameras. And we moved forward with that. And we also looked at the availability of the technology. One of the things that people may not realize, that the big cost is not the equipment. The big cost is the storage of that video data. And so we had to ensure that we took that into consideration when we received the request for proposals for the companies for the body cameras and in-car cameras, is that storage. And then we wanted to go beyond just having the equipment. You know, my experience in law enforcement, my experience at Little Rock when we had in-car cameras, knowing you have to have the data storage, and also knowing that you want to make it as easy as possible for the deputies, so that they can have the cameras on, things that they do, what triggers turn the cameras on. So we incorporated such things as if one deputy pulls up on the scene and another deputy pulls up within a couple minutes, and the second deputy does not have their camera on, the technology that we got in the car sends out a Wi-Fi signal that turns on the other deputy's equipment if he or she pulled up and didn't have it activated. We also ensured we had activation triggers on our holsters, so that if a deputy pulled their weapon, it turned on their camera system. It activated and started recording. So we would have that, so that the deputy would not have to worry about whether or not he or she turned the camera on if they're in a situation where they felt they need to draw their weapon. So we wanted to take advantage of the available technology. And I want to say that the system we got was a guarantee to get the upgrade that was coming in a couple of years. And that is having the GPS actually in the body camera, so that if a deputy is chasing someone, we can track, we know where they're at, and we also have the ability to live view that camera footage. If a deputy is out somewhere and the supervisor needs to see what's going on, or to just quality control, checking the activity of the deputy, they can log in and look at what's going on live.
So you're able to actually sit down with staff, sit down with the various departments, and ask why, or ask what is it that I can do to help you do your job better, or what I can do to better support you. It sounds like you're able to implement some things. Talk a little bit about, because you have your staff, all of the deputies and the various departments. In fact, the Pulaski County Sheriff's Department, your makeup is a little unique because of the territory that you have to cover. Kind of talk about that a little bit now, because you're the sheriff. You've kind of gotten in there. You've gotten connected with the staff. Now it's about serving the community, and your territory is quite large. You have a wide range of territory there.
It's about 880 square miles. Okay. It includes the area includes several municipalities. Little Rock, North Little Rock, Jacksonville, Maumelle, Sherwood, Riceville is in our area. And while the sheriff's office, we try to focus on the unincorporated areas, but we have jurisdiction within the municipalities, and we provide the service for Riceville. Does not have their own police agency, so they contract with the county, and Pulaski County Sheriff's Office. We provide that service to them, and so we're spread out. We have a lot of area to cover. Our areas of the county is divided into 6 basic areas: 3 north of the river, 3 south of the river. And we try to ensure the safety in those areas. And something some people don't realize is that we have a responsibility for the waterways. The Arkansas River, Coast Guard is responsible. We used to have a Coast Guard facility in Little Rock, but the nearest one is in Memphis. And so we have a responsibility for the waterways. And we do have boats that we do patrol the river. It's not full time, but we're out there. But when there's someone that is missing, someone jumps in the river, someone has an issue out there, we're going out there to try to find them, try to assist on the waterway. So that's important for people to know that we're out there doing that as well.
Talk about some of the things that you've done in terms of you kind of sit down when you first got there with your staff to learn more about so that you could wrap your arms around serving the community. Talk about some of the things that you've done to engage and learn more about Pulaski County and that community so that you could serve them better.
One of the things I did initially was I set up what we called Supper with the Sheriff. And we went out throughout the county. I think we had 13 events. We partnered with organizations to have a small meal so we can come together and you draw people in with a meal. County service, we didn't pay for the meal, so the organizations that we met would pay for the meals. And what I did at those meetings was introduce myself to them, explain to the community what I saw as a focus, the direction I wanted to go, and also wanted them to give me input about what they thought that the sheriff's office wanted to do. Because I understand, when we do true community policing, sometimes law enforcement thinks that community policing is we go to the community and we tell the community what we need from you to help us do our job. But true community policing is coming to the community and say, what do you need from us? What do you need us to do to serve the community? And so we did those things, and also recognize through that is that we needed a neighborhood coordinator. I needed a civilian position, someone to help. Well, the sheriff's office, I think, is naturally set for community policing. The sheriff's office, were doing neighborhood crime watch meetings, led by lieutenants. But I wanted to enhance that because those patrol lieutenants had a lot of other responsibilities. And I knew we needed someone, a civilian, that could go to those neighborhood meetings and build strong, take the time to build relationships in those communities, and then see what the needs are and see how we can partner more with that community. And so we created a neighborhood watch position and hired someone. The quorum court approved the position. We brought a person in, and that's what their job has been, is to work with the community on a daily basis, so that helps us to work with them. We also created a community advisory group, and that's people from different parts of the community to come together. We meet monthly, and we sit down and talk about what's going on in the department, but we also ask them what are the needs that they see, what do they want from us. And I like to point out our first meeting that we had with the advisory group, they asked me, they said, Sheriff, why do we not have the ability to text 911? They wanted to know why a person in the community couldn't pick up their phone in an emergency and just text 911. And so our person we had over our communication center, I asked him, what do we need to do? And so we started working on that, and we found a quick fix that allowed us to, while we couldn't receive the 911 text, if you called us, we could text you back. We could do that until we were able to address that issue. And it took us a few months using money that's allocated for the 911 center, and we upgraded our 911 center. We are next generation 911, and that's where most agencies all agencies want to go to. And part of that is having the capability to text 911. We had this meeting in 2019. By the end of December 2019, we had it in place where you could text 911. And just upgrading our system better so that if you call 911, we can better pinpoint where you are. And also we could also track the way we did our job in the center. The keystrokes, what calls we made, what information did we key in to evaluate us, to make sure we're as efficient as possible as we serve the community in that 911 center.
Got a transparent question for you that I know that may be hard in one sense, but is relevant in another. And when you took over back in 2018, in that window and even a year or so after, the police across globally pretty much just were kind of sponged in one basket and had a name that's not good, and still we're trying to we're still recovering, trying to recover. I'm sure that many departments, and so having dealt with that, I know that the transparency and also building relationships with the community is really, really important. Going into serving as sheriff, did you experience problems within the sheriff department when it came down to the community? And if so, what did you do? What steps or measures have you taken to make that relationship with the community where the accountability is held on both sides?
I think the sheriff's office had a better reputation because the way it's said, a lot of times deputies are going on call by themselves, and so they have to have a strong relationship in the community and be able to communicate and de-escalate, and so you had that going for us, but there were still some concerns about whether or not we were there, whether or not they saw us, who was policing the areas. And we worked on that. We went, people were saying, well, we don't see you. And so we assessed the way we assign patrol. And we looked at that and changed the way we assign areas. And we reduced the areas of assignment for deputies. Instead of allowing them to, on a routine patrolling, not responding to calls, instead of allowing them a broader area to patrol, we reduced that area so that it gave them more of an opportunity to engage the community and more an opportunity to drive down more of the local streets in that area. And that caused people to see us more. And so they felt our presence a little bit more. And I think that helped us in that area. I think having that neighborhood coordinator coming alongside us, I think that helped us to build a relationship. I think coming into the community and having those meetings, I think that helped. One of the things we did when I took office in 2019, it was also the 200th anniversary of the sheriff's office being in existence. It was established in 1819, and so we had a community event. And what we called it was we wanted to tell the community, we want to celebrate the community allowing us to serve them for 200 years. And it was a free event. We had sponsors for the event, vendors out there, and we invited the community just to basically have a picnic with us on our campus to basically introduce ourselves to them and let them know that we are not the enemy. We're part of the community, and you're part of us, and I want you to come and celebrate this with us. And we had probably about 400 or 500 people show up, and it was a great event on the campus of the sheriff's office. And I think what we've tried to do is be intentional. We're not looking for just having events, one-time events, but we're looking to build relationships. And so that means continually engaging the community. One of the things we did, we worked with AT&T Arkansas and the Arkansas Food Bank. They provided us with patrol packs in the trunk of our cars with 5 days worth of non-perishable foods in the car. And what we're able to do with that, when deputies saw a need in the community, you're responding to a call, and you sense there's a food need, you can just give them address that need immediately. And I think that helps people understand that we're here to serve. Yes, we make arrests from time to time, but we're here trying to make the community better. And I think working with them, working with City Serve and churches around to be able to serve the community, bring resources. We want to be a conduit for resources in the community. And I think that's been one of the messages that we've been trying to communicate to the community, that we want to be a resource. We're not just here to take somebody to jail. We're here to identify the underlying issues that may be going on in the community, and then try to be a conduit to bring resources in to address that issue. We'll make arrests. We'll try to get dangerous people off the street. But we have to do more than that if we want to have a positive impact, a long-lasting impact on our community.
We have a couple of minutes left. I want you to just take, we're going to have other episodes where we'll dive deeper. There's many departments. You've got the detention center. You have, and then you have the sheriff's office. And then you have the detention center. You have just many areas and platforms. And then you also have where you have the citizens. You have the victim, and then you also have those defendants that you have to deal with, and we'll get a chance to cover that. But for the just in closure in this episode, Sheriff, give us that 30-second spiel from the perspective of your vision of CSI. Where is that now versus the launching of it from your vision perspective?
I think we've done a lot in the last 3 years in the organization too. I think we've built stronger relationships in the community. We've relaunched our junior deputy program, mentoring program. We have a reentry program in the facility. We've been addressing salaries of the deputies to be competitive, in this market. Their salaries have come up about 15% since I've been there. And so that's working with the quorum court and others to make those things happen. I think we have come a long way. We are community focused, and we're engaging the community, and we're partnering with the community. We have our own rookie school now. We didn't have that before. We're training our own officers. We got permission from the state, approval from the state to do our own recruit class. And our recruits are engaging in the community before they get sworn in as a deputy. And I think that's key to focusing on the community and knowing who the community is. And we're there. We haven't done everything. There's still a lot to do. Continue to build strong relationships in the community and getting the community to want to be a part of us. Most law enforcement agencies are struggling trying to fill positions. And I think part of our job is to convince the community, people who are serving this community in a variety of ways, to understand that the changes that you want in law enforcement, things that we're trying to do, we want you to be a part of that change.
We're talking with Sheriff Eric Higgins. It is Protecting Pulaski County, podcast number 1. Stay tuned for the next episode here